who are discovering these documents and why. I mean, are these White House counsel lawyers? Are these like, you know, junior associates in the White House counsel's office? Are they Justice Department lawyers? I presume they're not FBI lawyers. And then they say, Kash, as soon as we found it, we reported it. Reported to whom? I guess to the Justice Department, but what did the Justice Department's, shall we say, policing arm, the FBI, do about it? In other words, why were they out there all of a sudden, 2 weeks before the election and since then? Why is this all of a sudden happening now? Who are these lawyers, and what is this reporting relationship?
And my question is, that's a great point, Larry. Who are the lawyers, and do the lawyers themselves have security clearances that are active to access classified information? That's a whole separate question, especially if they're not from the White House counsel's office. And they shouldn't be from the White House counsel's office if it pertains to President Biden's personal residences regarding personal matters, especially an ongoing criminal matter. But I think you're going to learn the answer to those questions and others as this investigation unfolds, as the media does its job, because I don't believe this FBI and DOJ will. But I think you're going to find out that Joe Biden has many more places where documents were improperly stored, and the Justice Department had known for quite some time. And that information, we now know, has been suppressed at least for 2 months. But I think it's going to go even further back. And the question I have is, why haven't they searched the other properties that Joe Biden's been talking about? What everybody's overlooking is the timeline. These documents have been on the move for 7 years. For 7 years, classified information has been going from place to place, to state, and no one has done anything about it, and no one knew anything about it. At least if you take Joe Biden at his word, he didn't know anything about it, which means his junior subordinates were the ones moving it around. Who are these people? Yeah,
that's exactly right. I mean, look, if they're in the counsel's office, they're the president's lawyers. That's what the counsel's office is. They're not going to, I mean, they don't have any authority to, quote unquote, tell the truth. But Kash, you know, we had Andy McCarthy on, former prosecutor, at the top of the show, dear friend of all of us. He said the FBI should be investigating this because it is a crime scene. There are multiple crime scenes. They should be investigating. I mean, they should be putting dust down and fingerprinting and the whole 9 yards. You're a prosecutor. You know a lot more about it than I do. You see what I'm saying? What process? This started, I don't know, the election, it's just several months ago. What? When? Where? Why aren't they doing their job?
Well, I'll use a real-life example. You don't even have to be a former federal prosecutor like myself and Andy to know this. Look at the Trump investigation by the DOJ and FBI of Mar-a-Lago. They issued grand jury subpoenas. I got a grand jury subpoena from that investigation, from the FBI and agents who showed up at my door. So what I've been saying on Truth Social all these last weeks is, how many other White House staffers in the Biden administration have been subpoenaed by the FBI? That's where you start. Then you move to his campaign offices and headquarters and his personal staff and issue subpoenas for them. Because if it's an ongoing crime scene, and I agree with Andy McCarthy that it's not just one crime scene, it's a plethora of crime scenes around the country now that we know, and you have to subpoena the institutions, the Penn Biden Center, University of Delaware, and anyone else associated with those programs, including the banking system, which you are the pro at, Larry, because what monies were moved and were there any ties to the CCP? This is the specific purpose of the FBI and the grand jury subpoena system for witnesses and document collection that has been used in one investigation about classified documents related to President Trump, but appears to have been forgotten and completely jettisoned for the investigation relating to Joe Biden. So I agree with my former federal prosecutor colleague. That is what should be happening, and we're seeing none of it. And of course, Larry, you and I both know if someone had been subpoenaed, we would have heard about it by now, since this investigation has been going on for months. Yeah, well, sure. Don't hold your breath. But Kash, last one. Let's talk banking for just a brief moment here. Who is this, or what is this University of Penn Biden think tank, which is funded by, I'm reading, I don't know, the New York Post had an account, somebody said $55 million from China, quote unquote, dark money, untraceable, what? Banking, Communist Party? I mean, who are these people? And what is this center? And why did it have classified documents? You follow my, I'm not leading you, I'm just stringing a bunch of questions together because I think they're all related, Kash Patel. And here's the thing, Larry, the answer's simple. When I was a chief investigator for the Russiagate investigation on the House Intel Committee, I did one thing mainly. I followed the money because money doesn't lie. Bank records don't lie. And this FBI should be sending out subpoena to those banking institutions and the CCP parties and affiliate programs. But you know who can do that since this FBI won't? The new Weaponization of Federal Government Subcommittee headed up by Jim Jordan. I hope they're going to be sending out these subpoenas because I've got a problem with this special counsel. He happens to be another one of these government gangsters, as I call it, who was Rod Rosenstein's hand-picked side guy who blocked the Russiagate investigation when Rod Rosenstein was the Attorney General. So I don't trust any of them to send out the subpoenas you're talking about. We now know from the January 6th committee the power of congressional subpoenas, and I hope this new subcommittee on the weaponization of the federal government issues it to the entire banking sector for the Penn Biden Senate.
I got a hard break. Thank you, buddy. We're going to have you on much more while we pursue and explore all that. All right, folks, we're going to take a quick break.